Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I'm going to be talking about my stats for the first quarter of the reading year. So to start, I read 64 books, which Goodreads tells me is 9 books ahead of my 200 books for the whole year reading goal. That is a soft goal that I don't care that much about. It just kind of lets me know whether I'm reading more this year versus last year, because last year I read 210 books, so apparently this year I'm reading about the same, although I am reading more manga, so that might mean I'm reading less other books because I read manga a lot faster. So I'm going to go through my story graphs and all of the stats that they keep track of, and then I'm going to talk about some stats that I keep track of independently and some graphs that I made myself that I'm excited about. So Storygraph keeps track of moods, so like one book will usually have 3 to 5 different moods that it fits. Apparently a big chunk of my moods, 40%, have been adventurous, 22% have been emotional, 16% have been lighthearted, 14% have been mysterious, and 7 have been reflective, and then hopeful, challenging, funny, tense, dark, and inspiring have been all less than that. I often find a lot of books inspiring as far as creatively, but I think when they say inspiring, they mean like people overcoming obstacles type stuff, and in some ways all of the books I read people do that, but I don't know. The word inspiring as far as a label for a book feels like a specific thing that most of the books I read aren't that. As far as pace, apparently 23 have been fast-paced, 29 have been medium-paced, and 14... oh no, that's not percentage, that's actual number, isn't it? Okay, that makes more sense. So 23 of the books have been fast-paced, 29 have been medium-paced, and 14 have been slow-paced. And that makes sense. I don't read very many slow-paced books. I read some, but not nearly as many, because I don't get through them as fast usually as the fast-paced ones. And I think this is what I describe them as versus what other people have described the books as. So I describe most of the books I read as medium-paced because usually if I enjoy them, I consider them medium-paced, whereas, you know, it might be slow-paced for other people, but if I enjoyed it, I would say it was medium-paced because it was a good pace for me. So I'm more likely to rate things I liked as being medium-paced versus fast or slow-paced. But every once in a while I find some that are definitely fast-paced or definitely slow-paced. Then page number, 40 of them have been less than 300, which is expected considering I've been reading a bunch of manga and those are usually about 200 pages, but I think that was my stat for last year as well, and I didn't read nearly as many manga last year, so that was kind of surprising for me. I expected that I would usually, like a lot of the mainline fantasy that I read is like 320 to 370 pages, and then I read a few that are more like 400 and some pages, so I expected that to be more. But this year it's been 24 of them have been from 300 to 499, and I've read 2 books over 500 pages, and I can't actually think of what those would be right now. Was Akata Warrior that long? Because I know that this year specifically I've been reading a lot of short books, even in addition to manga. Then nonfiction versus fiction, I have read 2 nonfiction books and 62 fiction books. I expected that as well. I haven't made a huge effort this year to read nonfiction. I would like to read more. That's a bit low, even for me. So I would like to find some more nonfiction. Specifically, areas I would like would be on race. So there are a few on my list, like Let's Talk About Race, but I would like to find a few more. I really like nonfiction about women in history. And various other people who have been overlooked by history and that their stories haven't been told. So I would like to find some more of those to read as well. Then the genres, this time we get a bar graph instead of a pie graph. So we have fantasy, expectedly, is at the top with 39 books. Romance, 33 books. Really? That can't be right. This must be percentage back to percentage. No. Number of books. I didn't realize I read that many. Wait, those must be overlapping because that adds up to more than... Okay. those must be overlapping because that adds up to more books than I've currently read. So this must be genres that other people have put them in or something, because I definitely haven't read that many that are straight up just romance. That must include books with romance as a subplot. Manga, expectedly 24. Young adult, 17. I kind of expected that to be higher. Well, see, that's artificially low because the manga I read is shoujo manga, and that's young adult. But it must not be classified that way in this computer system. Shoujo is specifically aimed at teen girls. But yeah, it's definitely YA, so that's not necessarily accurate, but if you take all of the books I've read that aren't manga, it makes sense it would be 17 of those are young adult. Contemporary, 14. That's higher than usual, I think, but I've been getting more into contemporaries lately, so that makes sense. Plus, I've been reading a bunch of disability books this year, and a lot of those are contemporary. Science fiction, 6. That's a bit low, but it makes sense. I don't remember reading very many science fiction this year. 5, mystery. I've read maybe one that was just a mystery, so that must include books with mystery elements. 4, middle grade. That's quite low for me. 4, children's. 4, LGBTQIA+. I know I've read more books with that in it, so that must... Oh my gosh, that's so loud. So that must be talking about just books that have that as like a main theme or something. A poetry book, yes I have. A crime book, yes. And a comic. Yes, I did. I remember that now. And star ratings, I've got 25 5 stars. Not surprising, I'm very generous with 5 stars. If I really enjoyed a book and can't think of any major drawbacks, I give it 5 stars. 2 4.5s. I don't usually do half stars, so that's why. 9 4 stars. And 1 star. Really? No 3 stars? That's interesting. Oh, on Storygraph, yeah, lately I've been not doing all my reviews on Storygraph because I've been reading a bunch of books and series, manga, and I haven't given star reviews for all of those. Okay, now on to my own. And I've been keeping track of the races of the authors that I read. And my goal for this year is to read 50% or less white people, books by white people. And I'm actually really happy with how that's gone so far. Definitely part of it is due to manga, but I was doing pretty good even aside from that. So I've read 20 books by white people, 15 books by black people, 24 books by Asian people, which includes a lot of manga, but also some full-length like novels. 1 book by someone from the Middle East, 1 book by an indigenous author, and 2 by Latinx authors. And so I would definitely like to expand how many Latinx books I'm reading, how many Middle Eastern books, and how many books by indigenous authors. And obviously I am generalizing and also talking about diaspora because this includes people who are like from Asia but now live in the US or the UK. And I'm glomming together India and South Asia with East Asia. So obviously not perfect. I just find it useful to help me keep track of if I am reading from a variety of viewpoints and experiences and not just all the same. I have a lot of indigenous books on my TBR that I would like to get to. I don't have as many Latinx and Middle Eastern books on my TBR, so I need to find some more sources of recommendations for those. But overall, as far as not just reading a bunch of books by white people, I feel really good about that goal. Then I am also trying to read more books by disabled authors and featuring disabled representation this year. And not all of these are own voices, but I've been able to read 13 books featuring disabled representation this year, most of them own voices, and have read 51 books that are by and about able-bodied people. So I would like to increase that, but that's still pretty good compared to last year. I think total last year I'd read about 20 books with disability rep, so I'm very good compared to last year. Then the last graph I have is about my formats and how I've been reading. So I wanted to break down and figure out whether I'm reading a lot of audiobooks, a lot of ebooks, am I reading very many of the books I actually own? And so not so great with the own books, only 11, and most of those were manga. 14 audiobooks, which I was surprised. I thought it would be more than that, but I think I actually spend a lot of time on each audiobook, so even though I'm reading them a lot of time, I don't get through that many. because I've read 39 physical books from the library, and a lot of those have been manga, but a lot of them haven't. So I'm quite happy with my use of the library. I realize I've misspelled physical. I've said physseal, but I'm not gonna fix it now. And I read 11 ebooks, and pretty much almost all of those are from the library, but a few of them I actually own, so that's something. And all of the audiobooks are from the library. I don't usually buy audiobooks. So I'm pretty happy with how much I'm plowing through physical books from the library. I would like to read more of the books that I own. When I'm not reading manga that I own, I'm averaging about 1 owned book a month, so I'd like to increase that to at least 3 or 4. Not sure if I'll manage that because I have quite a hodgepodge of books, and a lot of them I've already read. And a lot of them are parts of series that I don't have the first one of, so I'll have to figure out how to work on that. So those are my stats for the first quarter of the year. Overall, I'm pretty happy with a lot of aspects of it, certainly with the number of books and with the variety of books. There is quite a bit more variety than I kind of expected. I feel like doing this video has actually helped me figure out what I would like to change going forward into the second quarter, so that is also nice. I'd love to know what your statistics have been. Do you enjoy statistics? Do statistics make your head hurt? If they do, you probably haven't watched this far. I really like statistics. My math class that was a statistics class in college was my favorite ever math class. And I really like making graphs, so this is my kind of video. What was your favorite class in high school or college, and did you or did you not like any math classes? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!